All right, guys, welcome back to the TCI headquarters. We are in week 2. Game week is rolling. Another weird game week. Played Monday night. Today was player interviews. Last night we had Dabo on a teleconference. Davis, I guess let's start there. Teleconference last night, Dabo, which is going to be his weekly press conference this week. What were some of the highlights?
Well, injury-wise, he said they got out pretty good. He felt like, and they said he hadn't checked on everybody because normally when you play Saturday, he has 2 days before he meets with us to know exactly the extent of the injuries. But he thought it was just basically some bumps and bruises, some guys just mildly banged up. But he said there wasn't nothing serious on that front. So I think that's some good news there. I think obviously he was asked about quarterback situation and Cade specifically. He said he just really liked the way that Cade went in there and executed down at the end of the game, and it was a very small sample size. Obviously, just one drive there at the end of the fourth quarter when the game was in hand. But sometimes when you throw true freshmen there, particularly the first game, there's a lot of emotion and jitters for everybody, but particularly true freshmen making that jump up from high school to college, sometimes the emotions and just the adrenaline can sort of get the best of you. But, it didn't seem to affect Cade at all. He looked very, very, very smooth, and Dabo said he was excited to see that. Obviously, they're saying the same thing about this quote-unquote quarterback controversy. DJ is still the starter, but him and Brandon Streeter said that. He said that this week, and they both basically said that after the game as well. So, but I think that's something that obviously is going to be monitored almost by week thing. I don't know how much you're going to be able to tell over the next 2 weeks, but
I've never seen more discussion over one series, right? He got one series. He looked awesome. He made the third team offense look awesome. Made Drew Sweeney look awesome. So I'm sure he got some brownie points from Dabo for that.
Yeah.
But that was the buzz coming out was, I guess DJ played better.
He did.
He was definitely much more accurate. There were some passes that could have been called by other folks, and ran better. Obviously, turnover wasn't a big thing in his favor, but played much better second half. Yeah. But then Cade comes in for one series, and that one series is enough to cause buzz.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's just the way it's not yes, it came against some backups late in the game, garbage time, but Clemson was also playing with some of its second and third teamers on the offensive line, so it was. I think it was sort of an apples-to-apples comparison when you talk about the personnel, but he does look like the throwing motion, the fluidity, I think is much smoother than DJ. Now, that's not to say that I think he should be starting over DJ at this point, because I do think it's important to note that DJ I thought the second half in particular, which is ironic because his completion percentage was higher in the first half than it was the second, but I thought in the second half he looked better. It looked more in rhythm, more fluidity. And as you mentioned, there were some passes that could have been caught. Bo Collins caught a perfect ball down the sideline. EJ Williams dropped a slant, I think, on that same drive. Davis Allen dropped a touchdown pass right on the goal line. I can't remember. That might have been late first half. I can't remember exactly. But there were a handful of drops. And most notably with DJ, there was never a pass, other than the ones he threw away, obviously, when he was under pressure and just wouldn't open. But there weren't any passes where a ball sailed 5 yards over the receiver's head or 2 feet behind him. Every pass that he intentionally threw, it was on the mark for the most part.
And he played his best. That game was 17-10.
Yeah.
It was, we have a ball game all of a sudden there in, third quarter at some point. And he played his best from that point forward.
I agree with that. I thought he looked much, much better. And I know that, obviously Cade having a lot of hype, and the coaches fed into that too, if we're being honest. Just talking about, well, he's definitely going to play, and we'll see how this thing goes. It might be a series by series game, just a flow of the game thing. But I never thought in that game, boy, Cade, they should put Cade in right now because this thing's really going downhill fast. It got off to a little bit of a slow start there with the turnover and the botch snap that frankly was his fault. Dabo put that on Putnam after the game. I didn't think that was Dabo. So it was a little bit of a slow start.
First half, it was are we seeing the same offense?
And I think it was exactly. I think it was shades of people going back to 2021 season when people were like, oh, not this again. But eventually they did get it going, and Dabo even mentioned it. This is the same team with a lot of the same personnel. They scored 14 points at home against last season. They go in there and put 41 on them on the road technically, and against the same personnel essentially. So
and they were helped by 2 blocked punts.
They were.
They gave him 2 very short fields, which
Yep.
they scored 14 of his. What did you have? 27 for DJ.
Yeah.
Came on those blocked punts, but just he looked better.
He did.
So you look better. If you're a Clemson fan, you got to feel pretty good. Okay, DJ's playing better, look better. Cade, okay, so far as advertised. And we'll get into the next couple of weeks, but let's get back to the interviews.
Yeah.
Davis, today you had 5 or 6 players.
Yep.
Obviously, one of those was Cade. The first, press conference for Cade, we got to talk to Cade. I know you talked to him at the freshman event back in July, but this was his first big event at Clemson.
Yeah.
Talk about his press conference today.
Well, it was interesting because a lot of the pass plays that were called for him were moving the pocket on the run, getting him outside the pocket. And, Dabo and even Brandon Streeter have talked a lot about him and DJ as runners. Like, he's the much more faster, athletic one that can make things happen really outside the pocket, where DJ, with his weight loss and just improved mobility, he's still a bigger quarterback that can do the damage between the tackles. And we saw that he got a lot of design runs between the A and B gaps. But it was interesting because I asked Cade today, is that something you've always done, and do you have to think about your mechanics more when you're on the move and you're not just sitting back there, sort of in a drop back situation? And he said, like, that's something I'm very comfortable with. I'm just as comfortable rolling out and on the move as I am in those drop back situations in the pocket, and it's something he's really been doing since early in his high school career. And you can tell, like, that, I mean,
well, he's a danger out there when he's out of the
I
pocket.
mean, it almost seemed like some of his passes outside the pocket on the move were more accurate than just standing back there, and just as accurate as most quarterbacks are, just dropping back. So that's a distinct difference in their game, and obviously you could tell that's something that they want to implement just by the play call. I mean, one series and there were multiple play calls where they were moving the pocket, getting him outside, giving him sort of that run pass option.
Well, and Dabo has referred to him as a faster Deshaun Watson. His first touchdown pass, very reminiscent of Watson to Renfro to win the national championship.
Yeah.
Rolling him out to the side, like you said. The rub play, we'll say.
Yes.
But the accurate throw.
Yeah, and which is, I think, a contrast from DJ. Again, I'm not like every time trying to compare the two, but I think it's very obvious they're much more comfortable with getting him on the perimeter, getting him outside, and making those sorts of throws than they are DJ. Because DJ, I mean, he has to be more accurate just inside the pocket, just on the drop back stuff. And I thought as we mentioned, he was much more accurate in that situation on Monday night. But yeah, again, this is going to be something that's going to, we're not going to tell a whole lot with Furman and Louisiana Tech, but after that, you got that first real test.
We're not going to tell a lot, but we're going to get a bigger sample size of Cade. Blake Miller, the buzz all camp, played, obviously had some struggles playing his first game. He met with the media for the first time. What are some of your takeaways from his?
Well, he said the biggest thing was that he has to get more comfortable in some of his pass sets, because there was one sack in particular where he just got basically beat off the line, and that was one of DJ's true sacks. I think that you could blame on the guys up front. There were a couple of those where he just held the ball too long early in the first half, that he's got to just throw those away and get rid of them. But that was the biggest thing for him, because everybody's talked about, he's got the cerebral ability. He's picked up the offense quick. He's physical. He can move his feet well, but he was talking a lot about, I've got to be better just, staying open, not turning my hips as quickly on some of those pass sets. But he said, he does have the advantage, he thought, of getting to practice against this defensive line at Clemson every day. He said that really helped him. So, again, it's a true freshman making his first start on the offensive line, which is it's notorious for a spot where it's really hard for first-year players to come in and play, and you can see why. There's a lot that goes into that, not physically and mentally. So, I think he's obviously got to get better, and I think that's a position to watch, because if it doesn't, maybe you think about making the moving Parks back outside. But there's some time.
The schedule sets up nicely for Blake. He gets a couple more games, gets a little bit different caliber competition, get some more experience, work on things before they head up to Wake Forest. Another freshman today. I don't know, were you up there for Antonio?
I was.
Okay. Antonio Williams, I thought it was a smooth interview. Obviously, he came out. We heard some good things about him, but I don't know that I expected as much from him in his first game. We heard from him today.
Yeah. I mean, he's guy that is funny. He considers sort of Will Taylor one of his best friends. Yet they're sort of competing there at that slot position, I guess, behind Brandon Spector. But I mean, Antonio was a guy that got a lot more reps as the game went on, caught some important passes there in the second half when it was still a game. But yeah, he's a guy that's, and you can see it on the field, that brings a lot of athleticism, a lot of quick twitch, explosive short range move, the kind of skills that you need at that slot position. And he put that on display early. So, just a matter of him getting more comfortable, getting more reps, things like that.
Well, Dabo talked, I think it was his post game after the game Monday night, about Adam Randall. And it sounds like he's about ready to see the field. Yeah,
he could. I mean, he didn't say anything about it specifically when we talked to him on Tuesday night during his teleconference. But yeah, it sounds like he is. If he's, I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see. Like, even if he's ready, do you bring him back for a Furman or Louisiana Tech, where you don't really expect to have him to win those games?
I have a prediction, and I'm gonna put a caveat around that prediction, and this is something that hasn't been put out there yet. Information I have is that we will see Xavier Thomas, not this week, but we will see him against La Tech.
Yeah.
Kind of to get him back into game shape a little bit and have him ready to go full bore for Wake Forest. Maybe do we see something similar with Adam Randall? Do they want to give him a few snaps, get him a little bit of playing time against La Tech?
That would make sense.
Maybe hold him out this week.
Yeah.
And then have him, more ready to go against Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's a good point. And ideally, I think that's what you like to do. I think it's just a matter of, okay, exactly how healthy is he?
Yep.
Do we feel very, very confident that, we're ready to play him come Louisiana Tech week 3? It's a good point. We'll see what happens.
And we may not know till game time. Talk about the injuries.
It was interesting. Cade today also was asked about Adam Randall. He was basically like, I can't really explain the things he can do. He just got to, you guys will see, or something like that.
So some positive things there, young players on the. We also got to hear from one of the players that blocked a punt today, and I'm sitting there going through the roster saying, "Who is this that blocked the punt?"
Yeah, no, it was funny. I was talking to one of Clemson's SIDs. I said, "I bet you guys didn't expect Carson Donnelly to be making the media rounds today." And they were like, "Well, that's sort of the beauty of this game." But yeah, it was Carson Donnelly. I did not ever expect to be talking to him during the week, but obviously, as you mentioned, blocked the first punt, and it was a huge. I can't remember who we were talking to today. Maybe when Will Taylor said that was a huge moment in that game.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, that was in that part where the offense wasn't looking great.
Yep.
They're late. I think it was late first quarter, early second quarter, and blocked the punt and set them up at the 5-yard line and.
Took them a little bit to get in, but they got in.
Maximum, all four downs. But.
And we also heard today from another freshman. Today was kind of freshman day.
Yep.
Woodass, a guy we heard some things about from I think Wes a couple weeks ago about how he might be kind of the second guy in line there at Sam. Little did we know he would make his grand appearance on the stage by blocking the second punt.
Yeah, no, I thought he was the most candid and funniest interview today because he was like, if somebody was asking, can you take us to the play, how it developed, and he was like, well, they snapped the ball, and then next thing you knew, the punter was right there. So I was like, yeah, I guess that's very simplified there. But yeah, he's a guy. It was interesting. He's a guy from Florida, but said also that Clemson was always his dream school, and he was asked to elaborate, like, how does Clemson become a dream school for a guy from Florida, and basically said he's got one of his dad's best friends lives like 15 minutes down the road from Clemson, and that sort of started it all. And then obviously the success, as he got older, he saw the success that Clemson's had in recent years and wanted to play at Clemson. So, he was also asked about Isaiah Simmons because, Dabo has made that comparison too. And then, so I said, do you think you're like Isaiah Simmons? And, he didn't really comment on the athleticism and speed part of that, but he was like, body-wise type. I've got the length and the height to sort of compare at that position. But, obviously he's a guy that gives them a little more depth at that Sam and linebacker and nickel spot. And I think another body as a youngster that maybe they weren't expecting coming into fall camp to be ready year one.
Showed his athleticism on the block punt. We'll wrap this up with not anything to do with today's interviews, but kind of segue to that. Barrett Carter all over the field. Trenton Simpson all over the field.
Yeah.
We kind of knew that coming in, but we got to see that in full display Monday night.
We did. Even Barrett Carter led the Clemson in receptions according to the stat sheet because they had 0 Antonio Williams. They had the stat sheet was a complete mess.
That.
Yeah. So we made the joke today to some of the people at Clemson that, man, he was on the field around all over the place more than we even thought. But yeah, I mean, to me, Barrett Carter's speed and Trenton Simpson's speed, and I don't know people at home will remember this play, but Georgia Tech had a screen set up pretty well.
Came from behind.
And he just came from behind it, and the closing speed. It reminded me of watching Georgia's defense.
And they had a couple of blockers there. He went like right between them. Like,
so I think Barrett Carter obviously improved his stock. Trenton Simpson improved his stock, and KJ Henry. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. He made some money Monday night.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
we've been talking a lot about the Avengers and some of these other guys. And
he was best one.
KJ hadn't shown it yet, but Monday night he was the best.
He was the best.
Absolutely. All right, guys, plenty to be excited about coming off that game. If you're a Clemson fan, stay tuned to Clemson Insider. We're going to have all the coverage leading up to the Furman game and hopefully a lot more exciting things to talk about after this week's game. Stay tuned to the Clemson Insider for the most complete coverage of Clemson football.